Guatemala is a country located in Central America. It is a land bridge between continents. Mexico lies to its north and to its west. Belize, Honduras, El Salvador. Guatemala has coastlines on two great bodies of water. The Pacific Ocean stretches along its southern shore. A smaller piece of coast touches the Caribbean Sea to the east. The country's geography is defined by its dramatic and often volatile landscape. It is a place where the earth is very much alive. Guatemala is the most populous country in Central America. Guatemala is densely populated. Its population is estimated to be around 18 million people. This large population lives within a relatively small territory. High population density is concentrated in the Western Highlands and around the capital. The population is also very young. Nearly half of all Guatemalans are under the age of 19. This demographic profile presents an opportunity and a challenge: energy and future workforce potential, but pressure on education, healthcare, and job creation. The nation's capital is Guatemala City, a sprawling metropolis, the largest urban center in Central America. Its economic, political, and cultural heart. The city pulls people from across the country, migration for work and opportunity. Quetzaltenango, Zala, is the cultural and commercial hub of the Western Highlands. Antigua, Guatemala, the former colonial capital and a major tourist destination. Most Guatemalans live in the volcanic highlands and Pacific plains. The vast jungle of Petén is sparsely populated, a pattern with deep historical roots. Spanish colonialists concentrated control in the highlands. The concentration strains land and resources, leading to conflicts over ownership, while power, wealth, and services concentrate in the capital, leaving many rural indigenous areas marginalized. The history of Guatemala is deeply rooted in the Maya civilization. The Classic period, about 250 to 900 AD, flourished in the lowlands of Petén. Great city-states like Tikal and El Mirador rose from the jungle. The Maya developed writing, a complex calendar, and advanced mathematics and astronomy, building monumental pyramids and temples aligned with celestial events. Around the 10th century, lowland cities were abandoned. Historians debate the causes: prolonged drought, endemic warfare, disease, environmental degradation. The Maya people endured. Populations shifted, and new centers rose in the defensible highlands: Caiche, Cacchical, Mam kingdoms. The Spanish arrived in the early 16th century, led by Pedro de Alvarado, a lieutenant of Hernán Cortés, seeking gold and glory. They brought steel weapons, horses, and devastating diseases like smallpox. Exploiting divisions, they conquered the highlands, culminating in the defeat of the Quiche in 1524. Spain imposed its language, religion, and government, creating a colonial society built on the exploitation of indigenous land and labor for 3 centuries. Independence in 1821, led by the Criollo elite, changed flags more than structures. For most indigenous people, it meant a change of masters. The Spanish colonial period fundamentally reshaped Guatemalan society, creating a rigid social hierarchy: Peninsulares, Criollos, Mestizos, Indigenous Maya, and enslaved Africans. These divisions entrenched who holds power and who does not, lines that still shape society. The crown granted vast haciendas. The encomienda extracted indigenous labor, dispossessing communities and coercing work on export estates. First cacao, then indigo, later coffee and bananas, an economic model of large landholdings and cheap labor. The 1944 to 1954 10 Years of Spring sought to address land inequality. President Jacobo Arbenz's reforms challenged the US-based United Fruit Company. Amid Cold War fears, the CIA orchestrated a coup in 1954, overthrowing Arbenz and installing a military dictatorship. A 36-year civil war followed, from 1960 to 1996, right-wing regimes versus leftist guerrillas, with state brutality targeting indigenous Maya communities. A UN Truth Commission later concluded acts of genocide occurred. Some 200,000 were dead or disappeared. The peace accords ended the fighting in 1996, but deep wounds and unresolved issues remain. Guatemala's economy has traditionally been based on agriculture. For over a century, coffee has been king. Volcanic highlands provide altitude and rich soils for high-quality Arabica. Sugar, bananas, and cardamom, of which Guatemala is among the world's largest exporters, drive foreign sales, but price swings pose risks. Large plantations reflect colonial-era land tenure. The economy is diversifying: manufacturing, assembly, and especially textiles and apparel for export to the United States, plus food processing, furniture, chemicals, and cement. Tourism is crucial. Maya heritage, colonial cities, and natural beauty, though sensitive to safety and stability. Remittances. Money sent home by Guatemalans abroad, primarily in the U.S., pay for food, housing, education, and healthcare, surpassing any single export and providing vital foreign currency. Despite resources, poverty and inequality remain high. Wealth and land are concentrated. Rural and indigenous communities face malnutrition and limited access to services, a legacy of dispossession and exclusion. Guatemalan culture fuses indigenous Maya traditions and Spanish influences, especially in food: sacred maize and tortillas, tamales and atole, beans and squash. Spanish introduced chicken and pork, rich caldos and pepián, the national dish. Most identify as Christian, Roman Catholic, and increasingly evangelical, yet many indigenous communities practice syncretism, mixing saints and Maya beliefs. In Chichicastenango, shamans perform Maya rites on church steps. Guatemalan textiles are world-renowned. Each Maya community weaves distinct patterns and colors. A huipil can signal village, marital status, and standing. A living language woven on the backstrap loom. Spanish is official, but over 20 Maya languages, including Quiche, Kaqchikel, Mam, and Quechua, remain vital links to heritage and worldview. Music binds communities. The marimba, Guatemala's national instrument, resonates at festivals and family celebrations across the country. Guatemala stands at a crossroads. Unequal land distribution, a colonial legacy, fuels poverty, unrest, and migration. Addressing it is fundamental to peace and stability. Environmental degradation, deforestation in Petén, ranching, agriculture, illegal logging, threatens biodiversity and water. Pollution, including at Lake Atitlan, requires sustainable management. Civil war legacies and corruption weaken institutions. Impunity, gangs, and organized crime, combined with scarce opportunity, drive migration north. Yet resilience endures. The vibrant Maya culture, deep ties to land, and a growing civil society, indigenous leaders, activists, young entrepreneurs, are building a more just, democratic, prosperous future.